Welcome to another Monday Morning Pastor, where we look at something that occurred in church yesterday that might assist us in getting through a week. And yesterday we did something different, quite a bit different than what we usually do. Instead of a full sermon, we read out loud as a congregation 8 chapters of the New Testament. Specifically, we chose 1 Thessalonians. There are 5 chapters in 1 Thessalonians, and we read 2 Thessalonians, which has 3 chapters, making 8 chapters. It was fabulous, and it was all based on, oddly and ironically enough, a single verse. In 1 Thessalonians chapter 5, verse 27, we read this. Paul says to the church, "I charge you before the Lord," which is a very strong exhortation, encouragement. "I charge you before the Lord to have this letter read to all the brothers and sisters." He wanted his letter read. Well, this is consistent with what Paul has said elsewhere about when God's people gather together, typically in a church setting or maybe in a small group Bible study setting. 3 things should happen, and he says those 3 things are, and I'm reading from 1 Timothy chapter 4, verse 13. Paul says, "Until I come, devote yourself to, first, the public reading of Scripture, then to preaching and to teaching." And preaching, I always sort of think is a more encouraging, exhorting, urging people to love God and live for Him. And teaching is more about beliefs and doctrines and studying theology and things like that. But the first thing in the list is devote yourself to the public reading of Scripture. And so at our church, every Sunday, there is always Scripture read. Usually a pretty significant portion of Scripture, not as much as yesterday, 8 chapters, but usually quite a bit. And I would say this, if you're going to a church that seldom opens up the Bible, that seldom has public reading of Scripture, you might want to flee. You might want to go somewhere else. But this is also something you can get for yourself. There are wonderful Bible resources, Bible apps for you to be able to hear Scripture read. And by the way, we can also read out loud. I think opening up the Bible and reading it out loud has a different and enriching impact on our brains. We're not just saying it, thinking it, we are hearing it. It's kind of like a double dose, if we read the Bible out loud. And we might think that's childish. Children read out loud. It's a good thing if you have a place to do that, to read the Scriptures out loud. Now, it used to be when you wanted to hear the Bible read, you had to buy something like this. You remember these things? Cassette tapes, and they cost a fortune. I think it was like a couple $100. You could get the entire Bible read to you in cassette. Today, that's not the case. There are a number of marvelous applications that are free so that you can have the Bible read to you. Some of the more popular applications are the Daily Audio Bible, also the YouVersion, and I personally like using, because it's online, I can do it from my computer, Bible Gateway, and I'm sure there are many more. In fact, if you have a preferred application or website that helps you to hear Scripture read to you, put those in the comments here below. Bottom line is, we need to immerse ourselves in Scripture, and a great way to do it is to have it read out loud to us, and that should and is likely happening for you in your church Sunday morning services. Thank you for watching and listening, and have a great week.